So forward and then.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we are live.
Hi,
I'm
everyone.
here with Christelle and so excited about what our topic is today. And I'm so glad we had a chance to chat to figure this out. Because as you and I had discussed, it is so important. And yet so many entrepreneurs avoid it like the plague. Although, bad choice of words right now. But we tend to want to hide behind a rock and hope that our clients come to us. And that's just not what happens. So we're going to be addressing presence today. But before we get into that, tell us a bit about you and your business and what it is that you're doing.
So I am a life coach. My first and foremost focus is mindset. I have two main programs. One is fully a mindset so that, we can get rid of all the negative self-talk that all of us hear, like all of us, but we can train ourselves to start thinking in better patterns so that we can avoid that. And that's a huge focus of my program. My second program has part of that, but it's condensed and focuses on business, the how, the why of how you want to get your startup business going, the strategic marketing, promotions, business plan, things like that.
Awesome.
It's fun. I really like it. And I love, because I am a huge advocate for mindset, because for me, that's what changed everything. I mean, even being able to get on lives and get in front of a camera, I had to have the right mindset because I was kind of terrified. I was terrified of being judged. I was terrified of those eyes on me. And I was also terrified of the eyes not on me, because you see that stupid little view thing. And sometimes you see your numbers drop and then you get self-conscious about it. So
Yes.
that's why mindset's a huge, huge part of my program to help people with that. And even in business, you have to have the proper mindset to be successful. So it's still a huge part of my business program too.
Yeah, absolutely. Heidi just said mindset is everything, right? It
It is.
totally is. And one of the first hurdles I find, and I had to do it myself, is getting out of that job mentality and taking on that entrepreneur hat. It's a hard shift because we're so conditioned to think that a job is where it's at. We're not taught in school to go out and become an entrepreneur. We're taught to go to post-secondary education, get a good job.
Yeah. What do you want to be when you grow up? What job do you want to have? Exactly.
Exactly. So we spend all this time almost saying the word or the words, I'm an entrepreneur, as shameful. And so it's changing that talk to stand, confidently in what it is that we're doing. So absolutely, mindset is everything right off the bat. And we struggle with it on a daily basis, just in
Oh,
everyday
yeah.
life.
Exactly. Like, even though, as I said, like it's a huge part of my program, it's what I advocate, it's what I teach, I still struggle with it. It's not like every day I'm waking up and I'm just this perfectly perky, happy person looking at everything and positivity and rainbows. Some days I struggle. Some days I hear that negative self-talk saying, no, you can't do this, or maybe, nope, nope, nope. And
Yeah.
overcoming that can be hard, but as long as you put that effort in and you keep moving forward, just like with hopping on lives, it becomes more natural and more just how you work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. We're constantly a work in progress.
Yes.
There's never a place where we're going to be perfect. And we have to get that out of our mind. I always say there's no such thing as perfect. The word shouldn't exist because we put this huge, we put perfect on this pedestal of this place to reach, but it's not attainable.
Yeah. I completely agree. I'm going to try to quote myself, which ironically, I'm not sure if I'm going to quote myself perfectly, right? But I put this quote that I had said once, and I was like, you know what? This resonates with me so much. I'm going to put this out there and tell other people too. And it's that, like, in a world where technology and knowledge is always advancing, you have to put yourself out there to advance with it in order to, like, avoid becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to put in the extra effort to step up and do all those things, or you're just going to get washed out.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Heidi said, get a real job. How many times have you heard that? Yeah, very, very true. And I come from immigrant family. My family came from Italy, and my grandfather didn't even understand the idea, why go to university? You have a good job. And I was working in a grocery store throughout high school. So I was like, because I don't want to work in a grocery store my whole life. Like, I have bigger dreams for myself. But I understood his mentality. They came from the war, like World War II. They came to Canada, and they were just grateful to get a job and to be able to provide for their families. That was the time then, right? They didn't understand the change and the shift in mentality. And this is where we have to help kids shift their mentality now, because it was so ingrained in us about getting a job. We have to show kids that, okay, a job is great if that's what you want, but there's also other options for you.
Exactly. I like that. My family was they immigrated from France. My dad was very huge on education. I actually remember whenever I was telling him that I wanted to go to school for business and I was considering a couple other things, and how judgy he was on once he found out that I wanted to have my own business, because he just went on with, oh, the struggle's going to be this. Well, what if this? You should have a backup job. And we kept coming back to it. And I'm glad I didn't listen. I struggled, especially when I had no guidance and I was just kind of feeling around in the dark trying to figure it out. Yes, I struggled. Once I did have some guidance to help me along, though, like, I realized the struggle was totally worth it. And since then, I just keep working forward and trying to up my presence, up everything,
Awesome.
be as my best so that I can give my best to my clients.
I love that. That's exactly it, right? And that's why I say we're always a work in progress, because we're always trying to improve what we have so we can offer as much value as we can with our expertise and what we do for people. So let's go back to before, when you were avoiding the whole doing the live video thing, and what that felt like to you, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that that's going to resonate with.
Okay, so, oh man, I almost wish that I could pull up the video, even though it is kind of incredibly embarrassing to me now when I look back. Um, I was talking like this. Hi, my name's Christelle. I'm a coach. It was like I had to actually go back and turn my volume all the way up when I listened it to make sure that I could hear myself. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was so nervous. And I completely felt like I was being judged as I stared at that camera, and I'd look at the numbers and I'm like, what are they thinking? They're probably like, speak up, or why is she acting like this? Or all these thoughts went through my head. And it's amazing how quickly they can go through your head too.
Oh
And
yeah.
you just beat yourself up and you get so inside of your head, and it's awful. And I stayed in that place for a while. I tried to do a couple lives, and then I would look at them and I would not like them. I'd be like, oh, that is not how I want to be perceived. There was even a lot of times I would jump on and I'd get like 30 seconds in and be like, delete, 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 delete. I breathed wrong. I did something wrong. I noticed that a strand of my hair was out. And now I'm like, oh, there's some frizzy hair. I don't care. It's all good. But it was hard. I actually did a challenge. I'm trying to think. I think it said that you had to go live once a week for 2 months.
Okay.
And it was rough. But I did notice, I made sure that I didn't look for the first couple weeks, but then I looked back at the first one and I could actually see my own improvement which gave me like this boost that I was like, okay, I'm improving. Still not where I be, but I'm improving and I can see it. And it's only been a month. So I kept at it. I finished the challenge and then I dedicated myself to going live once a week, which admittedly sometimes I drop off, but that is still my goal. And it's amazing the difference of how I went from this timid kind of mousy talker, and I would write out like a full script and like read it and read it and read it and read it and read it before I went on to try to prep myself. And now, I mean, I still have some little outline notes sometimes that I check to make sure I'm hitting all my points,
Yeah.
but I don't need the script. I don't need to go over it 10 times. I don't need to secretly practice over and over. I am so much more comfortable. And I found that most of that did just come from forcing myself to get in front of the camera, from forcing myself to get out of my head and get onto the camera.
Which sounds easy, but it's so not.
It does. It
But
sounds so easy, but it's hard.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But it's like anything else. Practice makes perfect, right? I say this when I teach or when I taught young kids to play piano, they would get so frustrated. And I said, well, you have to start somewhere, right? You can't just sit at the piano and all of a sudden you're playing Bach. Like there's a
Yeah,
process in this.
exactly.
And if you practice, you will notice it gets better. And then they would start seeing stuff happen. And then you could see the confidence building. It's exactly the same. This is a process. And how it starts is by hitting that record button or hit go live button, right? And as daunting and as scary that is it going to be perfect? No, but again, that word shouldn't exist.
Right.
But
And
what's
you're
it going
real. We're not perfect. So we
to
can't
exactly?
put it out perfectly.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean people aren't going to get to see who you are. And I use this as an example. Like, I know some look at some other people's lives and go, well, my hair doesn't look that perfect, or, oh, I got to put makeup on, or I've got to, do this, do that, have a nice background. No. I say no. Sure, it looks great, but that's not real life. And when we're trying to connect to other people like us so that we can help them do what we do, we want them to be able to relate to us. So
Yeah.
looking perfect can be intimidating. And that actually may scare people away because we think, oh, well, that's unattainable. I can't do that. So I go live, like I put my hair up in a ponytail today because as I told you, I woke up with a migraine. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to still do this no matter what my head is doing, because it's important that I show up. That is, I think, key is when you make the commitment to show up every week, like you said, after a month, you're like, oh, I've noticed a big difference, and this has only been 1 month. Let me keep going. Let me keep trying. Right. And it does improve and it does get easier. And that's what I teach people too, is tricks to help them get over those little hurdles. Because all of a sudden, when a camera's recording, we tend to go, like that deer in headlights feeling. So, some of the tricks I have given people to use is like get a picture of somebody you love talking to, your best friend, your kids, your husband, family, whatever, and put it up beside the camera so that when you're talking to them.
Oh, that's cute. I like that. I try to sneak a friend on is something that really helps me. Like even if they're
Awesome.
not completely interested in what I'm talking about, which I am lucky that most of the time they're interested.
Yeah.
But if for some reason they're not, they still will pop on, and then I have them there and I feel like I'm talking to them and I'm so much more comfortable. And sometimes like they'll even respond back, which makes it even better. And so they'll ask a question and I'm like, okay, I got this. Like I'm just talking to my best friend, you know?
Yeah. And that's
Like as long
exactly,
as you see the
that's a
picture working.
great tip, right? Get somebody to hop on with you. And there's even tricks like if you're afraid to go on yourself, bring on a buddy and have a discussion. Bring on somebody else who either does something similar or you've coached before, and interview, right? When you go on with somebody else, you're not alone.
Oh yeah, I did my first interview. It was, I think, in January. I had never actually done an interview, but I had been really interested. And the dynamic is so different. Just like here with just talking back and forth to you, there's a bunch of people watching, but it doesn't really feel like there's a bunch of people watching. It just feels like we're carrying on a conversation.
Exactly, right? And that's what people need to understand, is that it's really just about having a conversation. It we tend to put all this pressure on ourselves to have to be specific. But I've gone on and talked about nothing, essentially, just to show up saying, hey, what are your goals today? What are you doing today? Today is my day to relax. There's a snowstorm outside. I'm going to go grab a tea, cuddle up with my dog, and watch TV. What's your day look like? Right? I'm not really sharing much other than I've made a decision that today is going to be a day of self care. And let's talk about you. What are you going to do for self care today? It doesn't have to be mind blowing information. It's just showing people you're human.
Exactly. I post videos that, like, I do a lot of arts and experiments with my son. So sometimes if I don't really have a topic to talk about, I'll post a video instead and it'll show us like making a volcano and it exploding or something. And it just gives people a little bit more of an insight on me and how I am. Something I feel like when people go live and they put so much pressure on themselves that they often aren't thinking about is you really do want to just be yourself because you want to attract your ideal clients. And if you're putting on a facade, you're going to attract the wrong people and you're not going to actually mesh as well.
Yes,
So even if you make a mistake or you do something like that, it can still be relatable to people, and those people are going to be the right people for you.
absolutely. Right? Because they're going to go, oh my gosh, she's not perfect, but look at, she's still doing it anyway. So courageous. I need some of that courage, or I need some of her chutzpah, or whatever they see. And I I talk about this one live I did where my nose started bleeding in the
Oh,
middle of me talking. And I was like, oh, look, because I saw it in my reflection. I'm like, oh, my nose is bleeding. Grabbed a Kleenex and just kept talking. Right. But that's life. And I know that could paralyze some people
oh yeah,
because,
and in the
yeah,
past it would have for me. That's why I would click and delete instantly if something happened. I'm like, oh no, goodbye. And now I keep going with it. I did a networking event recently and my son came in and I was just like, meet my son.
yeah, exactly. It's my dog who's always,
Oh yeah, my cat
trying to
is in
steal
the
the spotlight.
background trying
Yeah,
to photobomb too. We
exactly.
posted a dog earlier. I was like, I bet my cat's gonna get in the mix.
Oh yeah, they're hams, complete hams. They're like, oh, what's happening here?
Something you touched on a little, you were talking about, when you're making progress. I actually did a live not too long ago that was talking, of course, mindset, um, about how now people are so, what is the word I'm looking for though? It's everything is kind of instant gratification. People put convenience over quality a lot of time. And I think what we need to remember is progress. And we need to celebrate progress, even the little ones.
Yes.
Even if you're going and you want to be comfortable and alive, that's not going to happen overnight. So then do a challenge. Say, I'm going to go on once a week for a month and then celebrate that, because no matter what, you've improved by the end of the month. Even if you don't feel like you have, you
Yep.
undoubtedly have.
And you faced a fear
Oh,
that should be
yes. Yes.
celebrated as well, right? Like, you're doing something out of your comfort zone, and we need to acknowledge ourselves when we step out like that. For sure. There's one thing that I used to teach in my classroom when I was a teacher, and I've done it subsequently with clients as well, is I suggest having a whiteboard somewhere up in the kitchen or somewhere up at home, and call it the win board. And everybody in the home will write down their wins for the day. And sometimes it could be got out of bed, went to school, right? Or whatever it is to that person. And then at the end of the day, everybody looks at the win board look what we did today to win the day. And
I
it's
love that.
that mini celebration that we can tangibly see. It's right in front of us of what we did to win that day. Even if it was the worst day possible, we can celebrate at least something that we can say, good job. Yes, we made it through.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that. Like I might have to start doing that.
Do it. Take it.
Yeah.
It's just we forget to celebrate ourselves, and we forget to, acknowledge when we are doing something hard. And so going live, I know, is hard for a lot of people. And Heidi even said in the comments, she said, even for those of us who are trained actors, doing these live videos can be hard. And I'm a trained actor as well. And yeah, it is. It can totally step you up because it's like you're going into the abyss, and it's always putting it's vulnerability, I think, is what we're afraid of. We're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of, people not liking it. So we tend to edit before allowing them to make the decision whether it's worth investing in or watching or whatever the case may be.
I completely agree. It's getting over the fear, whether it's the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of appearing like you're insufficient in some area, whether it's just being like on a live, or that can be hard to overcome. It was
Yep.
hard for me to overcome.
Yep, absolutely. But like you did, and what turned out to be such a success for you was you kept showing up, right?
Yep.
That's such an important thing, not just in doing lives, every day. Keep showing up.
Yeah.
We
Push
always
through that
think, well,
discomfort.
right. And we always think, well, nobody's watching, nobody's engaging, nobody's commenting. I learned very early on in my whole online entrepreneurship is you never know who's watching. Because when I thought nobody was following or nobody was watching, all of a sudden I got a private message from somebody, and I was like, oh, somebody is watching. And it made me think, I need to keep showing up for those people who are silent and watching to see if I have something that can help them. And it made me aware that so many of us do that. We kind of sneak peeks, and we're like, are you my person? I'm going to keep checking you out and see, right? And I've talked to other coaches who are quite successful, and they have said to me that sometimes there are people who participate and watch what they're doing in their groups, all the free stuff for like years, and then go, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy into your program. But
Yeah,
they
it can also be the silent lurkers, the ones that kind of trickle in that you don't even really realize are there, but they're just intently watching, deciding how they feel about you, deciding if they want to work with you, and you will have no clue until the decision's made. And then they're like,
absolutely.
"Hey, you."
Absolutely. So the more you show up, the more those people will watch, and the more are going to start coming out of the woodwork because they're going to see you're committed to what you're doing. You're not just a flash in the pan, and you're committed to offering value and to being there for them, even though you can't see them. And those people will eventually, at some point, feel strong enough or courageous enough to be visible to you.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, and it's such a good feeling when it happens too.
yeah,
I had this person, she's been on my friends list for years, like before I ever became a coach. I think I connected with her over photography stuff. And so, like I said, years went by, and then she happened to see one of my coaching posts that resonated with her and messaged me. And she's like, so I've been watching. And I was like, oh. And it was beautiful. Like it led to a call, and then she's signing up with me for my business program. And it goes to show, like, exactly what you said. You might not know someone is watching, but
Yeah,
they are. So just keep showing up. And even if you feel uncomfortable, the more you show up, the less uncomfortable you feel.
absolutely. And, my motto is done is better than perfect.
Yes, I like that.
So just get it done. And I like what you said when you did that program, that you were challenged to do one live a week, which isn't a lot. If people can commit to doing one a week for a period of time before they decide it's not for them, then I would say, okay, if you do it for 2 months, just my dog, if you do it for 2 months and it's still hard for you or it's still uncomfortable, then we need to look at something different. But if you can do it for 2 months, once a week, and you don't see an improvement, then we'll move on. If you do see an improvement, then you owe it to yourself to continue, and you owe it to your people to continue.
Agree. Yep.
So I think that's a great challenge, right? And you're living proof you did it and you've noticed a huge difference. Have you noticed a difference in engagement, like how people engage with you?
Definitely. Well, undoubtedly, I get a lot more engagement and I get a lot more questions. And I think it's because they trust me more because they've been seeing me. I've been answering and talking about these type of things. So now they're comfortable actually asking questions about it. And I'm more comfortable answering. And so instead of giving, like when I did get the occasional question, but I was so anxious and just being like, because I'm a fast speaker when I get anxious. So like what should take 20 minutes will take like 5. So I'll get that question and I would just be like, hey, what is the color of your, it's blue, green, red, red. Isn't that great? Isn't that? It is, right? Yep. Okay, next. Where now I can actually breathe and answer those questions. And now I get more of them and we dive deeper because they'll have follow-up questions where I think I might have scared them off initially.
Yeah,
Because I didn't really get those follow-ups, but now people show up, they ask questions, and it's nice. It's nice to have that extra engagement because especially in the beginning when you don't have it, you're again in your head and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Why don't people want to watch this? Why aren't people commenting that are watching it? And just got to get out of your head. And once you are, that's when people are going to start talking.
absolutely. And I mean, that's a good life lesson too. Stop thinking about things so much. Stop thinking and do. I'm not saying like don't be
Oh no,
cautious
and I
because
get exactly what you're saying.
yeah,
Overthinking is still my downfall. It's something that I work on constantly. Because of exactly things like this. If I allow myself to overthink, I just go down that rabbit hole and you just want to stay away from it. Stay
yeah,
away from it, and then you're going to feel yourself elevate.
yes, we can talk ourselves out of anything or
Yeah.
talk ourselves into anything.
I was just going to say, or talk yourself into anything. Our brains are amazingly powerful and we can convince ourselves of whatever it wants us to, whatever we allow
Exactly.
it to.
Which goes back to why mindset is so important.
Exactly.
Totally circle back to your topic. Um, I'm going to give you a tip, and this is a great thing that I've learned just recently that helps beat the algorithm with live videos.
Oh, I think I'm going to like this.
If you can surpass 11 minutes doing a live, apparently that is when Facebook goes, oh, this person has something to say. Let's get it out to more people.
That's awesome. I
It
aim
is.
for 15 to 20 minutes for most of my lives. I feel like I start to lose people and they trickle off after I go past that 20.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to extra make sure that I make it open.
Right. And when I found that out too, I thought, oh, okay, that's awesome. And then I thought, oh, that's going to scare so many people. Right. The thought, I have to talk for that long. Like, what am I going to talk about? And this
And
is what I
people that
mean.
are
Like,
nervous about talking that long, if they can invite people on, if they can get that friend, it helps too, because then you have that back and forth that kind of stretches your time out.
yes, absolutely. That's exactly it. And that's what I recommend to people. Interview, get on with a friend, talk specifically, do a training in something, because in whatever it is that you do for business, I'm sure there is something that you can talk about for 11 minutes that will give value and help teach somebody something, right? It's not as daunting as it sounds. It's just we see the number 11 and we're like, "Ugh, I can't talk for that long," but we do all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm a talker. I'm a talker. But initially that would have terrified me if you had told me that like 6 months ago. I'd have been like,
Yeah,
what?
exactly. And you know what? It doesn't have to be that initially, too, right? That's just something that's a goal down the road to get to. Start off doing a minute.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah. And build up to that, right? It's that same thing. It's that instant gratification. We want to do it now. Okay, well, you got to take the first step before you can take the whole staircase.
Yeah.
So, baby steps. Don't just jump into the deep end right away.
Agree.
Little by
100%.
little.
I can't imagine if I had done a workshop early on. I did one kind of recently, but if I had done it in the beginning, like, oh my gosh, it would have been a disaster. I would have been an anxious mess.
Well, and that's exactly it, right? And then you would have shut it down and not done it at all.
Yep.
It would have put an end to it. And what I say to my clients is, we don't step outside and run a marathon. Like that would hurt our body, that would hurt us in so many different ways. We have to plan for it. We have to train for it. We have to, read about it and all the things we need to know so that we can run that far, that long, and stay in optimal form, stay healthy, stay all those things. So, why do we expect what we do as an entrepreneur? Why do we expect to be at that end goal right away?
Exactly. Just like when we were talking about like celebrating progress, it's such a huge thing because everybody wants those instant results and they don't want to have to climb the ladder, but the ladder's there and you have to climb it. You have to take the steps because I mean, even if for some crazy reason you were able to skip and get to the top, you're going to fall down because you skipped those steps. You didn't up there the proper way. You didn't go through the proper channels. Um,
Absolutely. And I think what scares us a little bit is we see people's posts. I made, $100,000 in my first 12 weeks. I'm like, okay, but what did you do before that 12 weeks that you're not telling people? Because I'm going to question you on the what's the word I'm looking for? The truth.
to like
There,
authenticity of what you're saying.
thank you. Yes. And not to say that that's not a huge feat. That's an amazing feat. But there's always work before it. And it's like people I've trained in acting. I'm like, you see people and it looks like, boom, they instantly became famous. I can bet you that there are many years of auditioning, of going out for this and that and trying this and that. Like, it's not just somebody decides they want to be an actor and boom, they're on TV. It's very rare that something like that happens. Even the people we see on these reality TV shows like American Idol and stuff like that, they have been working at building their craft for years to be able to go out and audition for something like that. It's not that they're like, oh, I'm a good singer, so I'm just going to go try this. Well, they've been singing for years before that. They've been training, they have a coach most likely that they've been working with to improve. So we need to stop looking at what those people are posting, saying, I made $1 million off one course. Okay, but how many times have you had to revamp that course before it became something that was sellable, that many people bought into it? How much work did you have to do to be visible to sell that course?
Exactly. There was a coach that I mean I still admire her. So like that's gone away. But I remember in the beginning when I first started, I was like I kept myself and I was like, okay, comparison is just it's bad all
Yeah.
around. You gotta get out of that. But then I ended up knowing someone that worked with her and found out that she's been in it for like 10 or 12 years. And I'm like, okay, so she didn't just pop up around the same time as me and have this instant following that I'm comparing myself to, because I'm sure in 10 years I'll compare just fine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so, so true. And there are steps, there are things we need to learn. We need to learn how to become more visible. We need to learn the proper techniques to get the engagement, right? That's a process I've had to learn, which now I'm able to help and teach people. That even with my background as a performer and as somebody who's used to being out in the spotlight, I needed to figure out how can I do this online? That was new to me, and I needed to know certain things to make sure that I was hitting the right people. So my messaging is super important. And that's all to do with voice, even though it's written. I want people to read my posts and hear my voice when they read it. I want them to feel and see me in those written
Yes,
words as
yes.
well, right? There's so many little pieces that are part of the whole package. And we need to understand that everybody has been through this process. So if they think anybody has just done it like that, it's unlikely.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's not an instant process, and nothing worth having is instant. Everything that is worth anything is going to take effort, and you're going to have to push yourself out of your boundaries and out of your comfort zone to really achieve the greatness that you're probably dreaming of. Because I mean, keeping it real, we all dream of greatness and success and
Yeah, yeah,
happiness and all of those things. A lot of us just don't want to work for it.
exactly. That's exactly it. So when we talk about presence, like you came to learn very quickly, you had to put yourself out there and then you challenged yourself, you did it, and now you're reaping the rewards from that because you put in the work, you put in the time, you got better, and now you've got people who are coming to you.
Yeah, and it's nice. And it's and I still know that like I have room for growth. That's why I'm here too, to talk to you. Because I mean, everything is just moving forward and progressing. I'm
Yeah.
always open to learn, and I this has been this chat is really, it's even better than I imagined it was going to be. I'll tell you
Yay.
a little secret. I'll tell all your viewers a little secret too. I was a
Oh,
little nervous, but I did it anyways, and here I am, and it's going great.
yay, yay. Sometimes the best gifts are given to us when we step a little out of our comfort zone, right? We take a bit of a risk. It's scary, but we get so much back and we learn so much from stepping into the unknown. Oh, I just quoted Frozen 2. Everybody go watch that movie, Into the Unknown. Um, and that's what entrepreneurship is, right? It's stepping into the unknown and trying to make sense of a mountain of things.
Yeah, and I think another thing that people don't necessarily realize is you don't have to do it alone, and you shouldn't do it alone. I have a business education. My specific major was small business management, and I still needed a business coach when it came to it to really understand everything. And I'm not going to lie, I went into it thinking I understood everything because I had the education, but I had never applied any of it. I had never actually talked to someone who had applied any of it. So when it came down to it, I was still feeling around in the dark.
Yeah.
So it's so important to know like you're not alone. And if you're struggling, I guarantee there is someone out there that has struggled before and that can help you get through that struggle.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
didn't do this alone.
And very few people do it alone, and everybody needs to understand that as well. And I use this as an example that when we look at people like, any sports player on a national team, they all have coaches on top of their coaches, like,
Exactly.
because they are making $1 million contracts and they want to stay at the top of their game. So they make sure that they have coaches in place to help them stay at the top of their game. So they're making their $1 million contracts.
Exactly. Coaches, trainers, dietitians, they have a whole team. And I don't know why people are so stubborn that they think that they have to go alone, because with a lot of things, not, I mean, I think this is typically said with raising a kid, but it applies to a lot, and it takes a village.
Yes.
And
It really
it's
does.
so nice too, because whenever you do have that team, it's not just that they can help you with the tasks that you don't know, but you have a support system. And that is priceless.
Absolutely huge, right? And that's why groups like this are so wonderful, because we've got a whole group of people cheering each other on. And that's kind of how
Yep.
I try to look at my group, is that, you know, we are here to support each other, to celebrate each other, to help each other through those little snags, because there's an abundance of everything out there. And when we look at things as not being a competition, as when you succeed, I succeed, we all succeed, and let's help each other get there, because the best of the best do. I mean, even Tony Robbins says he has people who coach him, and he's like the king of coaches, right? But he has people that train him. I vow he will be my client one day, because that man has some vocal issues and I need to help him. Him and Russell Brunson, I have said, and I will keep saying it until they take me up on it, because Russell Brunson needs to learn to slow down when he talks. But those are my dream clients for sure. But they will admit that they have coaches too. They have people that they go to so that they can get better at certain things.
Yep. Community over competition. We have to
Oh, I
come
love that.
together, help raise each other up.
Yes, I'm going to use that. Community over competition. That is awesome. I love it. I think that's a great way to end this session. Community over competition, and just do it, as
Just
Nike would
do it.
say,
Yeah.
right? Hit that record button. Even if you've never done a live before, just introduce yourself. Go out and say,
You mess
hey,
up, don't delete it. It's okay. None
yes,
of us are perfect.
yeah. But it can be as simple as just saying, hi, my name is Diva, and I'm a voice specialist. And what I do to help people is this.
Yep,
And
exactly.
just get something out there today. So that's our challenge. Let's challenge everybody else. That's our challenge to them. Get out there and introduce yourselves if you haven't
Yep.
done it live before.
Go give the intros.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much for volunteering and doing this.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that it wasn't as scary as you were anticipating. And it is. I wanted to be chill, and it is about us learning from each other. And I certainly learned from you today as well. And I always say that even in my coaching, that I learn so much from the people I coach as well, no matter what the age. There are kids who have taught me things. So, you know, we benefit. It's a win-win. And that's what I love about community. That's
Yep.
what I love
Community
about
over
community.
competition. We're here for each other.
Exactly. Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.